What's going on, guys? Andrew Piluk Hockey here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about the big decisions that the Maple Leafs need to make with their upcoming UFAs and restricted free agents. So if you guys are new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I'd love to have you guys here. We're talking about the Leafs all off season. We're talking about the Leafs all year. You guys know I do a lot of off season content because this is probably the most exciting time besides the playoffs for the Maple Leafs, and they got bounced in round one, so there's not a lot to talk about with the playoffs. So we're going to get into the Maple Leafs, their cap situation, like I said, UFAs, RFAs, trade talk, literally everything in this video, so let's get right into it. So just taking a look at their cap space, taking a look at an article that Sportsnet just put out as well a little bit, we'll get into that, and then we're going to check out cap friendly for some free agents. You can see the Maple Leafs currently right now this offseason have about $18.5 million to spend. And that's with the salary cap going up this year to $87.7 million. And they haven't had a ton of work, obviously, so far. It's too early in the offseason. But this is generally what the Leafs have on their roster right now. And what I've mentioned in other videos, guys like Minton and Cowan could change the way that the Leafs construct the bottom of this lineup, because you would have to imagine a guy like Bobby McMann is probably going to make this lineup. You have to imagine one of Kampf or Järnkrok will likely be traded. I would imagine the Leafs are going to try to move on from David Kampf, and I'm wondering if they're going to have Ryan Reeves buried in the minors, or maybe even just throw him on their healthy scratches. But there's a lot of decisions that they have to make, because there's big name free agents that they do have, bigger free agent names than, somebody like a Bobby McMann or a Järnkrok that they have to deal with. And that's guys like Tyler Bertuzzi, that's guys like Max Domi, Ilya Samsonov, which we kind of have an idea what they probably will do, but it's going to impact the entire offseason. And the other thing that could impact it is trading a guy like Tavares or Marner. And, I know a lot of people are not going to say this out loud, but I think for the Maple Leafs, if I was to guess what their plan is behind the scenes, is probably to see if John Tavares will waive his no-move clause. And if he does, I'm wondering is if they can remove that $11 million cap hit, maybe they consider holding on to Mitch Marner as well, because I know that Marner and Tavares are the guys that are kind of on the hot seat here. But just hypothetically, we'll put Tavares on LTIR here. That's almost $30 million in cap space, and you still keep Mitch Marner. This is a huge possibility for the Maple Leafs. If they're able to get rid of that $11 million from Tavares, there's a chance that the Maple Leafs might not move on from Mitch Marner and hold on to him as an own rental, or maybe even extend him depending on who they get on this team. And I know some people are not going to like that, but it's a very high possibility. So I'm just saying there's a chance that they trade both. And if they do, obviously the Leafs could do literally anything they want with $40 million. But the problem is that removing this much talent from the roster without properly replacing it could also be a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. You move on from guys that you think aren't helping, but it might be a curse if you can't replace them properly. You're working with guarantees and maybes. You have to make sure that the moves make sense. So let's just move on with the narrative before talking about Marner and Tavares. Let's look at the Maple Leafs and their free agents. And like I said, this is kind of inspired by an article that Sportsnet brought up, and I'm sure TSN's talking about it as well. But we can see just here from their their unrestricted free agents here, their UFAs, there's a lot of decisions that they have to make right now. So let's start off with somebody like Tyler Bertuzzi. And as you can see, he had 47 points last year in 87 games. So his previous cap hit was $5.5 million. And if Bertuzzi wants a long-term contract, I'm not too sure how willing the Leafs will be to just hand it out. And do I think the Leafs should sign him? I actually do. But if he wants a long-term deal, the Maple Leafs have to figure out a way to get this guy at a cap hit that makes sense for them. And I'm not sure that can exceed $6 million. I'm not even sure if it can exceed his previous cap hit. But I do believe other teams will be interested in this player. So it's going to be hard to hold on to Tyler Bertuzzi. The next one here is TJ Brodie. Now, I think Brodie is gone. Again, TJ Brody takes a lot of flack for his poor play this year, and I do acknowledge that. But if you look at since he came in, Brody was probably the best defenseman we had besides McCabe in the last few years, because they played the defensive side of the game that the rest of the team and the rest of that blue line didn't want to play. So they took on a lot of really tough matchups and a lot of hard minutes because we didn't have anybody else to rely on. So I do wish TJ Brody the best. He just probably won't be with the team next year. I think Kyle Clifford potentially can get a minor league deal, unless there was talk of maybe him retiring. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen or if it has happened already. But if he wanted to play, I'm sure he'll sign with the Marlies. I'm going to skip over some of these names here because they're a little bit more interesting, and I'll get to them later. Ilya Samsonov, he's not coming back. I don't think the Leafs can afford to bring him back, not in the sense of money, but he didn't play all that well. Okay, let's just be honest. He had a hot and cold season, and there was times where they needed him the most, and he didn't show up. He's got to move on. He's going to play somewhere else. He's still an NHL goaltender. He's still a good goalie, but not for what the Leafs need right now. He's a backup, and he's going to demand starter money. It's not going to happen here. So I wish him the best. Jake Muzzin, I feel really bad for this guy. His career is over. He's going to probably end up being a scout for the Maple Leafs, and I'm cool with that. I think that he should still stick around and be a part of the management side. I know he's done some scouting, but they couldn't officially call him that. Same thing with the other name on this list, Matt Murray, and even John Klingberg. We can put them all together here. These guys, their careers are over. I know Matt Murray is back, but he's not. They're not going to play significant minutes. They're not going to play significant games. So Muzzin, Murray, and Klingberg, again, all guys that have had great parts of their careers, but it's pretty much done for them, and I do feel bad for them as a human being. It's just tough, but all three of those guys are done. Now, another interesting name here as we move on, Ilya Lyubushkin. The Leafs have to hold on to this guy because I think that he can play pretty much anywhere in the lineup. The issue is if this guy was getting paid this much before, 2.75, the Maple Leafs need to find a way to get this guy at a cheaper number. If you give him a few years, that number needs to come down, because I would not give him anywhere close to that number. I know he played decent, but if the Leafs are trying to make big plays here, and again, you trade Tavares, okay, maybe you just re-up that number again. But Lyubushkin, I'm not giving him over $3 million. I'm just not. I'm sorry. It's not in the cards for me. I wouldn't do it. But again, I'm not the GM. I would like to see this guy come back, but not at that price. Next up, Martin Jones. You know what? I think he's going to get a contract somewhere else, because I don't think the Leafs can afford to keep him on their roster, because I think that they're going to go out there and spend on goaltending and keep Jones as a third goalie. If they can afford to do it, I would do it. But maybe Jones doesn't want to do that. I would love to see this guy come back as a third string, maybe even the backup. If the Leafs get a legitimate starter, a legit number one, no problem with Martin Jones coming back. If you get a guy that's going to play 50 or 60 games, okay, give me Martin Jones as a backup goaltender. I wouldn't mind. And I know a lot of people are going to get upset with me because I do like Joseph Woll. It's just I don't know how much this guy can play because of the fact that he's been injured so much. So keeping Martin Jones at a nice price, really cheap, maybe $1 million, I would do it. So next up, also Mark Giordano. I think he's going to retire. I'd love to see this guy stick around as a scout or a player, some sort of assistant, something like that. Not assistant coach, but a guy that works with the team to talk to young players. Gio, for the fact that he didn't play so hot at the end of the year, this guy is a hockey IQ master. He knows what he's talking about, and he had a really great career. This guy was an all-star, a fantastic defenseman. They're just not going to bring him back. I wish Gio all the best. He did good for the Maple Leafs. Stuck up for his teammates, too. This guy would fight at 40 years old. You guys got to give him credit for that. Dylan Gambrell, I don't want to speak too much on him. He's not coming back. Joel Edmondson, this one's kind of interesting. Again, if he's coming back as a 6-7 guy, a number 6 or number 7 guy, I would give him a 1-year deal, 1 or 2 years. But again, that previous cap hit at 3.5. The Leafs can't give that money out. They can acquire somebody similar to him for less money. But I would like to have Edmondson. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more out of him, but he's probably not going to get a lot of money from Toronto if he does want to come back. Now, the most intriguing one that I think could get done first is Max Domi. 51 points in 87 games played. Like, this guy had a fantastic season for $3 million. He clicked with Austin Matthews probably more than any player on this team this year. Like, more than Mitch Marner at, like, most of the season. Like, this guy was fantastic with Austin Matthews. And when you have a guy that can play with your face of the franchise and feed him the puck, you have to keep him around. The Leafs are going to give him a pay raise. It's going to be a little bit more. They're going to give him an extension. I think it's a no-brainer. I really want to keep Domi and Bertuzzi. I think it makes a ton of sense. It's just we'll have to see what the Maple Leafs are thinking when it comes to keeping those guys around. Now, let's quickly move over to their RFAs. There's some interesting names here. Connor Dewar, I actually do think they'll end up keeping him. I think he'll probably play up and down with the Marlies and the Maple Leafs. I'm just going off of main roster guys for now. Noah Gregor, I think he's gone. Liljegren, this one is tough. I just don't think the Leafs should give up on him. I think they're going to be able to sign him to a cheap deal again because he's an RFA. They hold his rights. If he's included in a trade, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if he's part of a bigger package for another defenseman, I think that they have to hold on to this guy as a bottom pairing defenseman for now. There's still things that needs to be worked out. He's 25, but there's still tools there that I think can be unlocked. You just can't give him a ton of money. So if the Leafs are going to hold on to him, it's going to be cheap. They're going to try to see if they can unlock something here. Maybe a new coach could help that, which, I mean, they're going to have a new coach. So I'd like to see him stick around for 1 or 2 more years and see what they can do. If not, package him in a trade. And then the last one that's really interesting, Steves is going to stick around. He'll get a deal where it's up and down, Marlies and Leafs as well, two-way. But Nick Robertson, right? I'm going to say this again, and I know some people are not huge on him. 14 goals in 27 points in 62 games. He needs a new coach, and the Maple Leafs are giving him that, right? I do not want to see Nick Robertson go somewhere else and be like the Marchmints and the Verhaeghes and all these guys that just click finally. This kid is 22. He played only like 11 minutes average per game, and he still scored 14 goals in 62 games. And that was with him barely playing some nights. He played like 6 or 7 minutes some nights. If this kid gets consistent minutes and plays 82 games, he's easily scoring 20-plus goals. And the Leafs need that because he's going to come in cheap. It's going to be cheap. He's going to be less than like $1.5 million. They need to hold on to this kid. He's going to be less than $2 million. With the cap going up, he might get a little bit more money. But they need to give this guy a 2-year bridge deal. And again, same thing as Liljegren. If it doesn't work out, you trade him. But you can't get rid of a free young asset just for the sake of getting rid of it. The Leafs have done this so many times where they're not sure about somebody and then they just ditch them. They have to keep this kid. I'm telling you right now, I would put money on it that Nick Robertson has a 30-goal season in the NHL. And I think people think I'm absolutely nuts for that. This is just a guy that like I feel like has something that just hasn't been unlocked by the coach. And Sheldon Keefe does not like Nick Robertson. It was very clear. But Nick Robertson played bigger than his size. He was physical, and he wasn't afraid to get to the net. And he scored 14 times playing minimum minutes with a coach that didn't like him. The Leafs need to hold on to this kid. I'm telling you right now. So there's a lot of question marks here. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of like if the Leafs trade Tavares or if they trade Marner, what are they going to do? The Leafs are going to have money. They're going to have money to spend. Hold on to as many assets as possible. If they're able to trade $11 million out of here, hold on to these young assets and sign them to cheaper deals. And if it doesn't work out, you can always move those deals. Don't get rid of them for the sake of doing it like they've done in years past when they don't have money. They need to hold on to these kids. So let me know what you guys think down below. Sound off in the comments. If you're new here, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Join the squad. I love and appreciate you guys as always. Go Leafs, go. Let's see what they do this offseason. This was a long-ass video. I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Peace.